What's up, everybody? Mark with Kardavox Academy here, and today I'm doing a rare thing. I'm taking a request from the comments. I recently put up a video of a band of one of my students, Obey the Kraken, and previous students, and people in the comments were like, "You should check out Netherwalker." And I think I reacted and did a vocal analysis to Netherwalker on a live stream like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember. But the name was familiar, and one of my students today, I had a lesson before this, was like, "You must check it out. You must do it." And he told me that it was like kind of a divisive song. I don't know. So we're going to do it. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a full-time professional harsh vocal coach. I teach people how to make all sorts of sounds like safely and efficiently so they don't hurt themselves. And I do vocal analysis here on the channel. So we're going to check this out. There's no music video, which is, I usually prefer to have a music video, or a live video is even better, but we're going to rock with it. We're going to rock with it because, I don't know. Here we go. Netherwalker, Battle of Tredem. Battle of Tredem. I don't know. Here we go. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of pausing here on the channel because the main thing I'm doing is vocal analysis, talking to you about how these vocals are made, what I like about them, what I would maybe do differently. But the first thing I want to comment on actually is the instrumentation. I really love this kind of absurd level of shredding, this with the kicks going crazy. It kind of reminds me of like Infinite Annihilator, right? And I don't know. I'm not going to go too much into it because that's not my thing, but that's not my expertise. But something about it's very therapeutic. Something about it is actually very relaxing to me, and I don't know why. Like I could fall asleep to that just at the beginning. Couple things I want to talk about. I'm going to keep this kind of short so we can get into the song because it's 4 minutes, so it's, you know, there's a chance for this video to go too long. I try to keep them to about 20 minutes. But the first thing I'm really enjoying is the use of the high vocals here. Really love the use of the high vocals. So high vocals that we're hearing here are they get this wet sort of like condensed sound, and that comes from, well, it comes from many things, but the main thing is it comes from hyponasality. Now, hyponasality is when we talk and we plug off our nasal cavity, right? So instead of speaking hypernasal in the nasal cavity, we're closing it off, and it creates a very different type of high vocal. So if I go hypernasal, if I'm here, it's got like very chewy sound. Whereas if I'm hyponasal, I close off the soft palate, right? I go here. So if you're having trouble getting the high tone that you want, think about the soft palate, which is, again, the soft tissue that sort of sits in the back of the mouth. Your uvula hangs from it. That's what your soft palate is. And that can also help with a lot of like the wet tone that we're hearing in these high vocals. The back of the tongue is sort of bouncing. Sorry, my hand was in the way of the mic. The back of the tongue and the soft palate kind of touch, and we gently and with the proper pressure push airflow through that space. And it can sound really cool. I was mostly listening to the high vocals because anybody who knows this channel knows that I love a good high scream. So let's keep going. I'm going to think about some of those lows, but I'll say the main thing that I was hearing was, again, another technique I like, which was like it's like a strategic muffle. Okay, essentially what we do is we keep the mouth and the mouth small and the tongue forward, and then we keep the back of the mouth open, right? And that creates this. I don't know if I'm doing my lows exactly the same technique that he is as far as the generation of the distortion, but it creates this really cool, monstrous sort of sound, and it's quite good. Anyways, let's keep going. Yeah, so you can hear a lot of what I'm talking about there. Also, that was pretty with those like little punctuated lows. Very, very cool. I like this pretty well. I feel like when I did the Netherwalker, is it? Yeah. I feel like on the stream maybe it like wasn't my thing, but I like this song a lot more, or at least a lot more than I remember. Now anyway, you actually could hear there was a little section of the high vocal where we could hear the high sort of isolated. It was very quick because the song is crazy fast, right? And we heard this like, one way that we can find this rattle, this is one of my favorite ways to do it, is by doing like a little crow sound. So you go, and when I do that, I can feel my uvula, right, going on the back of my tongue. You can do it down in your chest voice if that's easier. Chest voice, by the way, in case you're unaware, is a lot more like your speaking voice. Where up here, up here, it's more my head voice. You can kind of tell the difference. This is a little bit of an oversimplification, maybe. But if you go, you can feel it vibrating in your chest, and you don't feel it vibrating in your chest. That's basically that, right? Now, if I take this crow sound, and I close it off, and I try to do just like a light and loose, like high grunt, like this high, bright, false chordy mid grunt through there. And we have, it's very like Larcenia Row. I think Ryan Vale when I hear that kind of sound, but it's very like this. And then we had a lot more of these lows that were opening up more slightly. This is a really important thing to understand about low vocals is they're easy to make sound monotone and boring, but they're also easy to make sound interesting if you know what you're doing. And essentially, I'm hearing different levels of opening and closure. It's going really fast. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of having some trouble analyzing it because it's very, 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 very quick. So let's keep going, and I'm gonna really focus here. But generally speaking, what I'm hearing, if I could characterize this vocalist, I don't know their name, but if I could characterize this vocalist, I'm hearing a couple of things. Number one, a very strong command of the higher screams and the lower screams, right? This often comes with the ability to change the shape of the vocal tract in a relaxed and accurate manner very, very quickly. If we have time and I remember, I'll show you an exercise for that. The second thing I'm hearing is very even pressure. It sounds like most things. And again, I feel like I would have to listen to this song like 4 times to give it a really accurate analysis because there's so much packed into such a small space. But I'm hearing very even pressure being articulated in interesting ways. So if you like these kind of vocals, focus on even pressure. And then just punctuate. And that kind of gets you roughly into this realm. Anyways, let's keep going. I'm not gonna lie, this song, and I mean this in a very good way, is heavily distracting. my brain is like, it's like somebody's shaking a million shiny sequins in front of my face, and I'm like trying to figure out which one to look at, and I'm getting a little overstimulated. But it's cool. I like it so far. Let's keep going. That was sick. That was fucking sick. The chew on that high, right? That is a really good. Oh, that's sick as hell. I wanna listen to that section one more time. Let's go back to 130. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I thought I heard, usually these songs have like a big pause and then something nutty. That's like a very standard deathcore thing to do these days. So I thought that was happening. And if you've watched this channel before, you know I have a tendency to pause at the worst possible times. And I was like, I'm not going to do that this time. So one thing that was really interesting and very cool And this is another thing I'm noticing about this vocalist is the ability to add some decay to the scream, less by the changing of pressure and airflow here. Although obviously, if we're petering a vocal out, there's going to be less airflow, right? But more so through the mouth. So there was this high vocal, right? This, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to like close my. I was going to say drop my jaw. All I'm going to do is I'm going to close my jaw. Hold on, I had to burp. My apologies. So. And if I pair that with just a slight easing off the gas of my abdominal muscles, sounds really neat. Doing that with the lows too. Yeah, so like really this is this person, they try to take their vocals, they try to treat them like, and again, this is just what I'm hearing. I don't know if this is consciously what they're thinking. They try to take their vocals and make them as consistent and even as like TV static. And then they morph and they shape and they get really they go back and forth between really staccato punctuated articulation and slower sludgier articulation, which both are fine. A lot of people get hung up on this, like, I can't even understand what they're saying, and like if that's why you don't like something, that's fine. I don't care. I like it all. I think it all sounds good. Let's keep going though, because this next part sounds pretty neat too. There's a lot in a small space. Now that was really interesting, actually. That was really quite cool. So there were two things there that I thought were pretty neat that I think are worth talking about. The first was this like open, sorry, I breathed really hard into the mic. It's going to sound how it's going to sound. My apologies. The first was like this open, just gently moving through a tunnel. I think that's a pretty classy choice because a lot of people, I've done this myself, they do their tunnel and they're like, hey guys, here's my tunnel. And they're just, nonstop. Like, it's just like, this is my tunnel, blah, right in your face. But this was like a brief movement through tunnel and then into a brighter, more, I don't want to say standard, but yeah, kind of standard high, right? This sort of like, and that's a cool movement. It's not that hard once you get it, but it's a cool choice. The vocals here, this is kind of interesting. The vocals here, y'all are going to think I'm crazy, but they're played a bit close to the chest from a metal perspective. Now, if you're not much of like, is this deathcore? I don't know. I don't know anymore. I'm getting, the closer I get to 40, the less I know about genres and all this. But usually in these like really extremely fast, crazy songs, the vocalist is doing as much as they can, as fast as they can. But if you think about this, really what we have so far are lows and highs. It's just low, 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 high, 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 high. And it's punctuated. It's done differently, different mouth shapes. He has this really cool, like pulled, I'm not even going to imitate it because I'm not going to lie. I'm not very good at it. He's got this really good, like pulled back, like fry, croaky, quiet tone. One of those tones that it's really quiet, but you get up on the mic and you give it the proper production. And it sounds huge and monstrous. I think that's where, we're getting those like kind of slammy, like those, or those. I think that's where we're getting those from. And it's pretty cool. A one take of this would be wild. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying that'd be wild. But yeah, it's interesting. We got this maximal song composition and the vocals. If you really step back and look at it for what's happening, we have low vocals and we have high vocals. Pretty straightforward, but done in a tasteful way. All right. If in the live stream, because apparently that's where I did this before. if in the live stream I wasn't that into Netherwalker and I gave them some criticism because for some reason that's kind of what I feel like, maybe I'm taking it back a little bit. Maybe I'm taking back what I said. Anyways, let's go. The fuck is happening? I think someone just threw it. Oh God, shut up. I'm going to do a hard cut and let this ad pass because I want to go back and listen to that. Give me a second. Okay, now that I'm back, not today, demons. Putting my atheism on hold here to get the evil spirits out of this place. Jesus Christ, what even? You know what? Let's even get the good Lord in here. There you go. What up, J-Man? So this whole time I'm listening to this song and I'm like, why is this like this? Apparently this song was kind of like divisive or something. That's why. I don't even know what to say. It's like it sounded like it at one point. There's a sound that like like, now listen, I just, okay, here's the thing. Right now I'm leaning towards I like it, but I have to kind of process it. But there's this one spot that sounds like if there were to be like a 6 or 7 year old kid on a scooter going downhill and it's going too fast and he's scared and it's just like this like sort of sound. Like that's kind of what I heard. There's another part that sounds like somebody like threw a cat. I don't know. I don't know if I went back far enough. I don't even remember where this freaking was. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I've been around this planet for 36 years, close to 37, and I've heard a lot of things, and that was odd. In some ways I like it. In some ways I'm not so sure. Like I'll give okay, I'll give the homies in Netherwalker this. That took me off guard. I have over 400 of these videos, I'm pretty sure, these reaction videos. I have heard a lot of what metal is out there to do and metal vocals are out there to do. Now, some of these sounds, like, listen, I've been teaching harsh vocals, extreme vocals, whatever you want to call it, for over 5 years, full time, full roster of students. I've been doing harsh vocals for like 17 years, but some of those I don't know. I don't know. Now, I could sit down and I could probably take a good guess. Certain sounds seem like sort of an inhaled, really quiet, like fry with the vocal cords kind of tight. And when I'm talking fry, I'm talking more of like an actual vocal fry tone, just inward. So less like, more. I've never been good at inhales at all. But cupped on the mic, EQ'd with really like lots of compressor on it. There was one spot that sounded almost like the epiglottis rattling, but listen, I can't hyper analyze each one of those sounds. I got a lesson in 15 minutes. Okay. 15 minutes. Jesus Christ. But what I will say is the more I talk about it out loud, the more I think I like it. The more I think I like it, even though I'm not sure I enjoy the sound of some of those sounds, if that makes sense. I think I like that. So here's the thing. Okay. This is going to be more of a hot take. This section is going to be more of a hot take than a vocal analysis. And then we'll get back to vocal analysis. So stuff like this. And I'm willing to bet, having been part of this metal vocal community for a long time, that the reason some people are divisive about this is because it's just making sounds for the sake of making sounds. Right? I think those arguments are pretty dumb. I'm just going to come out and say it. Because defining something isn't a good argument against it. Right. One of my favorite examples of this is, if somebody tastes soy sauce and they're like, oh, it's salty. And it's like, well, yeah, it's salty. You're just describing it. What about the saltiness makes it bad? You know what I'm saying? And this is definitely deviating from a lot of conventional vocal sounds. Not entirely unheard of. We have bands like Nihilist. We have bands like Larcenia Row doing a lot of this sort of thing where I just envision these dudes sitting in front of their computer with a mic. They've got the whole Saturday afternoon off and they just make sounds. They're just doing stuff experimentally. And the difference is that while we would make all those experimental sounds and then save it in a file and go listen to it in a couple months, they're like, let's put this in the song. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, listen, if anybody was coming to this expecting me, being the millennial guy, to be like, oh, there's just no soul. I hate to disappoint because, I am a vocal nerd and I find it interesting. Is it going to give you the same emotional experience as maybe a Spirit Box song or the same, or like a Black Tongue song or tons of emotion in Alex Tan's voice? No. But at what point is it my fault for walking into an Apple store and being mad that they don't sell Samsung phones? Oh, I want to buy an Android. It's like, well, sir, you went into the wrong place. It's your fault you're mad. You know what I mean? So yeah, at the end here, I don't know. I'm not going to lie. This has been kind of a hard reaction and analysis because this is one of the ones where first time listens, I think, are lame because I think I could have brought you something better if I had listened to this 5 or 6 times, taken some notes. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Another thing, I respect that a lot of that craziness was held right to the end. Bam, solid punch, right? I love the instrumentation. And here's another thing. I think here's another reason why the more I talk about it, the more I have some respect for that outro. It reminds me of what we were doing back in the day. You know what I mean? We didn't have, we had Melissa Cross, Zen of Screaming, and that was it. We had Melissa Cross doing the Zen of Screaming. We had people like Ian Bear on MySpace putting up like vocal tutorials, which this is no shade, but they weren't very good because they were actually, I don't think Ian Bear ever put up any tutorials. I think he would just show his tone, right? I wasn't his mutual or whatever on MySpace. I don't even remember what it was called. You just see the clips from, back in the day. But there were people who did put up metal vocal tutorials, but they were terrible. And it's not their fault. None of us knew what we were doing. And so this kind of reminds me of when, a bunch of metal kids would get around and, we'd play Guitar Hero and, watch old school YouTube when it was just like home video uploads. And then, after a while, we'd tire out and we'd sit around and listen to our favorite bands and just make noises, have a Halo LAN party. And those were good times. There are some times where I miss when metal vocals used to just be kind of an experimental slugfest and we all just did stuff. We all just did stuff. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. And I appreciate that they're pushing some boundaries as well. Now let's wrap up with some vocal analysis that I can help you with, right? Because like I said, I got a lesson in 10 minutes here, and I'm gonna have to get in and be like, what the hell? What are we doing, right? So let's go ahead and let's do some analysis or do some instruction here. So let's say, what the hell was that? Let's say you are looking to have a more even air tone. I'm going to be putting up a video later about some of my favorite breathing exercises that I've ever done. But one of the best things you can do is as you breathe in, breathe down into your stomach. This is figurative. We don't actually breathe into our stomach. But what I mean by this, I can't adjust my camera. What I mean by this is I breathe in and my abdominals and my ribs expand, but my chest and shoulders stay kind of neutral. So I'm going to put my hands a little too high up, but I'm going to breathe in. And you can kind of see some expansion on those ribs. Okay. Now, when we create these vocals, these compressed types of vocals, we want to hold our ribs out and utilize our abdominal muscles to move that air through. So I don't know how well you're going to see it, but if I create this vocalization, you can see that my ribs stay out. This is a brief introduction of to a concept called appoggio, which is a singing term for maintaining your inhaled posture, essentially to maintain or to support. We hold our ribs open and we create thin streams of air, especially in these vocals where we're creating we're closing up the tissues above the vocal folds to create these types of screams, right? Thin stream of air. One way you can practice, what this air feels like. This is super old school. What it feels like to maintain this airflow without having to do distortion, because it is good to separate the two. Don't always, if you're practicing harsh screams, don't always do grit. Sometimes work with things independently, like your breathing. You can literally put your hands on your ribs, inhale, and then push out a TS. Your abdominal muscles are going to engage. Your ribs are going to close when you're done. And that's it, right? You can also do this with a Z. There's an exercise called Farinelli breathing that I'll be putting up a video on soon. But anyways, yeah, this was definitely heavier on reaction, lighter on vocal education. But blame the Netherwalker dudes for nonstop curb stomping me with this song. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you so much for being here. I got a lesson in 8 minutes. Weird song. Final verdict, I like it a lot. Many thanks, much love, I'm out.